I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I want to share what turned out to be the worst week of my life. My wife, Emily, and I have been married for 5 years. We've had our ups and downs like any couple, but I always thought we were solid. We were planning this marriage retreat for months, a weekend meant to rebuild trust, strengthen our bond, all that bullshit. I thought maybe this was what we needed after a rough patch last year. The retreat was held at this lodge in the mountains, secluded enough to feel like a getaway but close enough not to be a hassle. The first signs of trouble started before we even got there. Emily was acting weird on the drive, fidgety, distracted, her phone glued to her hand. I'd catch her looking over her shoulder, deleting messages, and she'd brush it off with that bitchy smirk, teasing me about being paranoid. She always had some excuse, some irrelevant reason for her behavior. I should have listened then, but I didn't. The first full day was mostly exercises, trust falls, sharing personal stories, the usual stuff. I was trying to stay open, but all I could think about was how distant Emily was feeling lately. She'd snap at me during group activities, roll her eyes when I tried to engage her, and seemed more interested in her phone than the exercises. It felt like I was losing her, and honestly, I was starting to wonder if I was the only one invested in fixing us. That evening, during the night, I decided to check if I'd missed anything. I had a habit of snooping when something felt off. Dumb, I know, but I'm human. I found her phone on the nightstand unlocked and I couldn't resist. I started scrolling through her messages and my stomach dropped when I saw a string of texts between her and someone named Mike. They were flirty, obvious enough to make my skin crawl. But what hit me harder was a recent message. Can't wait to see you tonight. The trust exercise was a good idea, but I think I trust you even more now. That was followed by a picture of her in bed, half clothed with her head turned away. I froze. I kept scrolling. There were more messages, more photos, details about where they were meeting, how they were planning to keep it secret during the retreat. I'd never felt so betrayed in my life. She always claimed she was committed to us, to our marriage. But that night, I realized she'd been lying all along. The trust exercises, the supposed growth, were just a cover-up for her sneaking around. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as I stared at her messages. I didn't know whether to cry, scream, or just leave her there, crying and lying. I never imagined I'd catch her like this in the act and in a way that I could prove. The next morning, I woke up with the weight of the world on my shoulders. I was furious, but also hurt in a way I'd never experienced. I kept replaying her smug, bitchy face during our last argument. She'd been so dismissive, so condescending, like I was just some idiot she married out of convenience. I knew I needed answers, and I knew I couldn't ignore what I'd found. I decided I'd confront her that day. No more hiding, no more pretending I didn't see the signs. But I also knew that once I brought it up, everything would change forever. I just didn't know if I was prepared for how much. That morning, I was a mess. My mind was racing, trying to put everything together, but at the same time, I was terrified of what I might say or do. I kept looking at her, sitting across from me at the breakfast table, acting like everything was normal. She was munching on some toast, throwing side-eyes at her phone, and giving me that arrogant smirk. I wanted to scream at her, but I knew I needed to play it cool, at least until I had all my ducks in a row. When she finished her breakfast, I finally decided to confront her. I said her name sharply, making her pause mid-sip of her coffee. "Emily, I saw your messages last night," I said, trying to keep my voice even, but inside I was shaking. "With Mike, the stuff you were texting, the photos, how long has this been going on?" Her face flickered with that familiar bitchy glare, like she was annoyed I was ruining her morning. "Oh, come on, Jake. You're blowing this way." "Out of proportion, it's just some stupid flirtation. It doesn't mean anything," she snapped, rolling her eyes and tossing her hair back. "You're being paranoid. Honestly, I don't know what you think you saw, but you're making a huge deal out of nothing." I clenched my fists. "Nothing, nothing. You're sending her pictures of yourself in bed, for God's sake. That's not nothing, Emily. That's cheating. That's betrayal." She scoffed, crossing her arms. "I was just having fun. It's not like I slept with him or anything. You're overreacting because you're insecure. Besides, I didn't cheat. It's just some stupid flirtation, as I said. And honestly, I don't see what your problem is. You're acting like I've committed murder." I felt blood pounding in my ears. I wanted to smash something, to shake her, scream at her, to admit it. Instead, I kept my voice steady. You know what? I don't believe you anymore. I've seen the messages, the pictures. I know what you're doing. And I don't want to be with someone who lies and cheats and disrespects our marriage like this. Her eyes narrowed, and she looked at me like I was a fool. Fine. If you're so convinced I'm cheating, then maybe we're better off apart, she said with that icy tone. You're always accusing me of stuff anyway. Maybe I should just go. Maybe I deserve better than a paranoid husband who's too stupid to see what's right in front of him. That was the moment I knew she was lying through her teeth. She had one of those defensive, bitchy masks she always put on when she was caught, but I could see the flicker of guilt behind her eyes. She was trying to pretend she didn't care, but I knew better. I knew she'd been lying for a long time, and I knew I had to do something about it. I told her to leave, told her I didn't want to see her face again unless she came clean and told me the truth. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I was left sitting there, heart pounding, feeling like I'd just been punched in the gut. It was like my world was crashing down around me. I didn't know what to do next, but I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. The betrayal was too raw, too real. I had to figure out what was next, and fast. After she left, I just sat there for a while trying to process what had just happened. My mind kept circling back to those messages, to her smug, dismissive attitude. I felt like an idiot for not seeing it sooner. All those signs, her distracted behavior, the late nights, the way she'd brush me off when I asked about her day, made sense now. She'd been sneaking around behind my back, and I had been blind to it. I knew I had to get some clarity, so I grabbed her phone again before she could hide anything. I wanted to see if there was more I'd missed, more proof she was lying, and I was right. There were dozens of texts, some exchanged during our supposed trust exercises, where she clearly was flirting with him and planning their meetups. I saw pictures she had sent him, some of her topless, some of her lying on the bed, just daring him to come over. All of it hit me like a freight train. But I also found something unexpected, something that made my stomach turn even more. Hidden. In her messages was a confession. She told him she hated the retreat, hated pretending to care, and that she was only there because I'd begged her to try. She admitted she didn't love me anymore, that she was only pretending to be happy. I couldn't believe it. All those years of marriage, all those moments I thought were real, and she was just faking it. I kept scrolling, trying to find the last piece of the puzzle, and then I saw it. She had planned to meet him again that night at the cabin where she'd been sneaking out. I was trembling. I felt sick. How could she lie so easily, so convincingly? How could she betray me like this, right in front of my eyes? I had the proof now, and I knew I couldn't stay silent. When she finally came back that evening, I was already waiting for her. I told her I knew everything. Showed her the messages on her phone, the photos, the texts. Her face went pale, then flushed with anger. That's not what it looks like, she spat. You're blowing this way out of proportion. It's just sex, Jake. It doesn't mean anything. Mike's just a stupid fling, and I was only doing it because I was bored or whatever. You think I'm some kind of slut who's been cheating for months, please. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was lying again, twisting the story to make herself look like the victim. I told her I wasn't interested in her bullshit anymore. I was done. I told her I wanted her gone, that I was filing for divorce. She yelled, called me names, accused me of being paranoid and insecure. She said she'd never cheat on me, that I was imagining things, that she was tired of my accusations. The thing was, I knew she was lying. Deep down, I knew. And her reaction only confirmed it. I saw her true colors that night, bitchy, manipulative, and completely unfaithful. I could feel the cold rage simmering inside me, mixed with heartbreak and disappointment. I'd loved her once, but now I just saw the betrayal for what it was. I was done playing nice, done pretending I didn't see the truth staring me in the face. It was time to make a decision, and I knew right then that my life was never going to be the same. That night was a blur. After I confronted Emily, she went ballistic, screaming, crying, threatening to ruin me if I went through with the divorce. She threw everything she could, her phone, a glass of water, anything to distract from the truth. But I'd already made up my mind. No way was I going to let her manipulate me anymore. I told her she could pack her shit and leave, that I didn't want to see her face again until she was honest about everything. I spent the next few hours trying to piece together what I was going to do. My mind kept circling back to how she'd lied for so long, how she'd been sneaking around with Mike during our supposed trust-building retreat. That whole weekend had been a lie, a charade. I'd wasted my time, my energy, thinking we were working on us when she was just screwing him behind my back. I didn't sleep much that night. Instead, I kept staring at her messages, trying to find some way to make sense of it all. I felt a mixture of anger, shame, and heartbreak. I'd always tried to be a good husband, too. Support her to make her happy. And for what? To find out she'd been cheating on me, lying to my face. That realization cut deep. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all the signs? How did I not see it coming? The next morning, I knew what I had to do. I called a lawyer, set up the appointment, and started gathering evidence. I wanted to be prepared. I also decided I'd confront her one last time, not to beg or plead, but to get everything out in the open. I wanted her to see that I knew the truth, that I wasn't going to be played anymore. I knew she'd come back, trying to manipulate me again, but I was done with her lies. When she showed up that afternoon, she had that fake smile, the one she always used when she was trying to manipulate me. But I didn't fall for it. I looked her in the eyes and told her I knew everything, that I was filing for divorce, and she could go to hell if she thought she could lie her way out of it. Her face twisted, anger, surprise, maybe a little fear. She started crying, trying to deny it again, but I just shook my head. I felt a strange sense of relief, honestly. It was like waking up from a nightmare I'd been living in for years. I knew this was the end of us, and honestly, part of me felt a strange freedom. I was tired of her bitchy attitude, her lies, her manipulations. I'd been a fool for so long, but no more. I told her to leave, to take her shit and never come back. As she stormed out, screaming and cursing, I felt a strange weight lift off my shoulders. I stayed there alone, staring after her, realizing that I'd just gone through something no one should have to. But I also knew that I was finally free from the lies, the betrayal, the fake smiles. I'd take some time to heal, to figure out what's next. But one thing was clear. I wasn't going to be another victim of her bullshit anymore. This was the end of our story, and I was ready to move on, whatever that looked like. In the days that followed, everything felt surreal. I couldn't believe I'd actually done it, confronted her, kicked her out, and finally accepted that my marriage was over. There was a strange mix of relief and emptiness inside me. On one hand, I felt like I'd finally taken control of my life, stopped being a victim of her lies and manipulations. On the other hand, there was this gnawing ache, like I'd lost a part of myself that I'd never get back. I spent a lot of time thinking about what went wrong, trying to piece together the years I'd spent with her. She was always bitchy, dismissive, and lying to my face. But I kept telling myself I should have seen the signs earlier. Maybe I was too blind, too invested in making it work. I kept asking myself whether I'd ever truly known her or if I'd just been fooling myself all along. That thought hurt more than anything. The worst part was realizing how much I'd sacrificed. My trust, my peace of mind, even my self-respect. And for what? A woman who had no respect for me, no loyalty. I kept replaying that moment when I found her in bed with Mike, the betrayal so raw it was like a punch to the gut. It haunted me, but I knew I had to move forward. I also made sure to surround myself with friends and family. I didn't want to drown in my own misery. Their support helped me realize I wasn't alone and I was stronger than I thought. I started seeing a counselor, not just for the breakup, but to work on myself. I needed to rebuild my confidence, my sense of who I was without her. I also made a point to block her from everything. Her number, social media, every way she could contact me. I didn't want her to manipulate me or keep me hanging on. The more I thought about her bitchy attitude, how she lied so convincingly, the more I realized I deserved better. I deserved someone who'd respect me, who wouldn't cheat, who wouldn't treat me like an afterthought. Looking back, I can say I've learned a few things. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's almost impossible to fix. Never ignore the signs, even if they seem small at first. And most importantly, never stay in a relationship where you don't feel valued or respected. I was naive for a long time, but now I see clearly. Honestly, I don't think I'll ever forget what she did, but I also know I'll heal. One day, I hope to find someone who truly respects me, who understands what loyalty means. For now, I just want to focus on myself and rebuild what I lost. If there's any advice I can give, it's this. Don't ignore the signs, don't convince yourself it's all in your head, and never settle for someone who treats you like you're disposable, because you're worth more than that. It's been a few weeks since I kicked her out, and honestly, I've never felt better. There's still that lingering pain, that hollow feeling inside, but I've started to rebuild my life piece by piece. I got rid of everything that reminded me of her: photos, gifts, her stuff. I even changed my number and blocked her on everything, because I realized I wasn't going to let her continue to manipulate or torment me from afar. What's been most surprising is how quickly I've started to regain my confidence. I've been dadding again, not with the intention of rushing into anything, but just to remind myself I'm still worthy. I've also been talking to a counselor, working through the betrayal, anger, and sadness. It's been a tough process, but I think I'm finally starting to accept that this was her choice, her mistake, and not a reflection of my worth. Looking back, I realize how blind I was. I always thought I was a good husband, but I guess I was too busy trying to fix things, to hold the marriage together, that I missed the signs. Her bitchy attitude, her dismissiveness, the way she'd lie with that smirk, those were signs I should have seen earlier. But I was naive, hoping she'd change, hoping she still loved me. Turns out she never did. She just played her part until she found someone better. The biggest lesson I've learned is to trust my instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't ignore the red flags, and don't make excuses for someone who clearly doesn't respect you. No matter how much you love someone, if they're cheating and lying, they don't deserve your trust or your loyalty. You have to value yourself enough to walk away. Yes, it hurts. Yes, I feel betrayed and stupid, but I also feel free. Free from the lies, the shame, the suffocating feeling of being a fool. I know I'll heal, I have to, and someday I'll find someone who genuinely cares, who respects me, and who isn't a bitchy liar. For now, I'm just grateful I saw the truth before it was too late. And if there's one thing I want everyone to take away from this, it's that no one is worth sacrificing your dignity for. Trust your gut, get out when you need to, and never let someone treat you like you're disposable, because you're better than that.